everyone, to another edition of the Viking Red Zone Report. I'm back.
Hey, how'd it go in the Trump rally? By the way, he closed in the polls? Since Nathan went to work for him? Did you notice he's closing in the polls?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me.
You've been doing good work.
There's a mosquito out here. I'm outside. I'm dying. Okay, so Nathan Lamb here alongside Lugs Harold Brad Rose, coming to you via video this week. And I will explain myself to why, I have not been around, why things are the way they are right now. Probably wondering why we're doing video at this moment. I'm going to go over all that. But first, today we have the Nelsonville York preview. We've got the Buckeyes coming to town Friday night. This is a series that throughout history has been one-sided, but it seems like the last 5 years or so, this has been very competitive. It's been a very competitive matchup between these two teams. Very, very similar in talent, and very exciting game. So we're gonna have that again this Friday. I think we all expect it to be a really good game. So we're gonna break down that game today on the show. We're also going to talk about our predictions for this Friday as we have submitted them, and we're ready to keep it rolling. So we've got a lot to cover. Obviously, Lugs back at home base. Me and Brad are on location. So Lugs is going to be the one reading the. You're going to hear a lot of Lugs today. So I mean, it is what it is. He's the one that's got the screen. So
yeah.
No, but so before I toss it to Lugs, I just want to explain. A lot of people probably have heard, or especially if you're a fan of the show or listen to the show. I've not been around for a week now. The reason is because I've left the country. No, I'm just kidding. So actually, the previous weekend. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before, started feeling a little ill. Went and got a COVID test, and I actually tested positive. So I am one of the 41 in Vinton County that have actually tested positive for the virus. And it's been 10 days. Today is day 10 since I first started showing symptoms. So I'm not contagious anymore. I am able to go back out into society now and rejoin everyone. I still have some lingering symptoms, but nothing to worry about. It was very interesting to say the least. There was a lot of people asking me questions when I'm laying in bed, literally sick. Don't feel like doing anything, and I've got people calling me from the health department. I got people calling me from Georgia Pacific where I work. I got people calling me. I just talked to somebody this morning from the Ross County Health Department. So like it was very busy when it first came out. And I've spent the last 10 days cooped up in the bedroom. Obviously the wife and kids are quarantining in the house. They were allowed to go around the house, but I'm stuck in the bedroom. I can't get near them. I'm trying to keep them from getting sick. And it was horrible. The first part of it was the actual feeling bad and the symptoms that came along with it. That was bad. And then, I started to feel like I could run to the store. I could go for a walk. I could go throw a baseball. I could do all these things. I feel fine, but it's not being able to do that drives you crazy. So it was kind of a two-part thing. And if anybody has any questions about it, if anybody wants to know exactly how I felt, I'm not going to go into that on the show because a lot of people probably don't care. But if you are, curious as to how I felt and how things went down and how long it lasted for me, obviously everybody's different, but I'd be more than happy to answer any of these questions. If you're watching the video, leave a comment. If you're watching it on Preps, leave a comment. I'll if you want to talk, I'll talk to you and tell you everything I can. But it's over. It's in the past. We're over it. Everybody in the house is healthy still, so hopefully it's over for us in our house, and hopefully it's over for everybody soon. But that's where I've been. I've not been at Trump rallies. I've not been supporting
Trump. Man, I'm so disappointed right now.
I've not been supporting Trump, to be honest with you. And this is it's not a political show. I don't really like either one of the candidates, so that's just me. I'm not going to support either one, basically. But been sick. I've been sick, guys, and it's nice to find. And then let me just say this: it's nice to see your faces. It is, and I'm sorry that mine's changed a little bit because I did get so.
That's my first question. I'm concerned. When you get the COVID, does your beard fall off? Is that one of the symptoms?
Yes.
I'm really kind of worried, mate.
Brad, I'm trying to keep you away from it because yes, the beard did fall off, one hair at a time. No, I got so bored. One
It'll
night.
have to take a while, right?
I'm in the bedroom. I mean, I watched so many movies, and I got a TV in the bedroom, the Fire Stick, so I can watch anything I want. And I'm watching so many movies that I like. And one night I'm just laying there. I'm like, okay, well, I can't sleep because I feel like I'm getting wrapped up by Harambe or whatever that.
The gorilla that got shot.
Yeah.
We're going all kinds of political today, aren't we?
So
we're pulling it all out.
So I can't sleep, and I'm laying there. I'm like, daggone it. I'm just going to shave. I mean, it'll grow back by the time I had like 10 days. I was like, I'm just going to shave, see what happens. Nobody's going to see me. Well, it's starting to come back. Definitely not on Brad level yet, but and Lugs is letting his come out too. Lugs is a little bit more gray than I think I remember last time, but anyway, that's something that I did because I didn't have anything to do. So now I don't know what I was talking about. Oh no, I know what I was talking about. You guys did I think it was 3 shows without me. You guys did awesome. I'm laying in the bedroom listening. You guys had me cracking up. It was so funny. I loved it. You guys did a great job. You clearly don't need me.
Oh, we missed you. I'm telling you. Me and Brad continually talked about our role switches. We don't realize the difference in roles until you weren't there, and then I had to slide over to you, and he had to slide over to me. And we were both like, we don't like that. We want our spot back. That's what we were like.
I think you guys did great. Lugs, you did a good job, bringing the show in and closing it. And Brad, going through the stats and really breaking down the games. You guys did an awesome job, man. You guys did great. I wanted to let you all know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we appreciate it, but we missed you. No doubt about
it. We're back, and we're ready to talk about Nelsonville York.
That's right.
Let's finally get into why people are listening. They don't care about me or whatever. So go ahead, Lugs. You've got everything in front of you. You just go off and read what you want to read, and we'll chime in as we feel the need.
Okay. Well, and we go over the same thing about every year too. So it's kind of a reiteration of just the history of between us and Nelsonville York. But we've been playing these guys since 1967. And by the way, the cool thing about St. Bernard, our friend we know from Nelsonville, he actually sent us an old video of the 1967 game where we first played. That was really cool, by the way. So,
hey, did you notice that they ran the exact same offense that River Valley ran last week?
I did not notice that, really.
It's a 50-year-old offense, and it works.
Did you watch the video, Brad? Because I know Brad, he sent it to our group writer.
Yeah,
it was super cool. Okay, so
they had the same shifts, same guys moving out of the backfield and everything. It was exactly the same. It was awesome.
I think they were wearing the same uniforms too. It's been 30 years and they got the same uniforms now that they did then. So,
it's been 50 years.
It's 50 years. My bad. Yeah, sorry. I'm still stuck in the 90s, man. My bad. So, all right, so we are 9-43 against these guys. Like Nathan said earlier, it is kind of a lopsided rivalry. They've always been a powerhouse team. We had a few years where we kind of dominated TVC, but for the most part, Nelsonville's dominated it more than even Athens. So our first win came in 1969, 14-12. Our only blowout win in this entire series, it came in 1996, where we won 42-6. Game where Mike Clare had 207 yards rushing in the game and 2 touchdowns. The only times we have won back-to-back games in this entire series is 90-91 and 95-96. That's our only win streaks, and that's our only win streaks are 2 We've never won more than 2 in a row against these guys. So we ended a 15-game losing streak in 2015 with a 38-26 win. We lost last season 34-20. We ain't even going to talk about that game because every time I think about it, I get a little irritated. So our records coming in Benton County is 2-1. We are 2-1 in the TVC. Nelsonville is 1-2. They are 1-1 in the TVC. They have a loss to Wellston and Trimble. We have a loss to the Megs Marauders. So that's what I got. Let's talk about the game.
All right. Well, so let's first talk about the schedules a little bit. We do have a common opponent in Megs, but here's the thing with the
at the same capacity either. I mean, Meg's
right.
is a little up, but we're here in Cleveland might have been a little bit hurt going into the game, and we know he was hurt coming out of the game. So, it's to compare those two when your best player is not at 100%.
But not only that, but if you look at the last handful of years in the TVC Ohio, it kind of started in the bottom where the teams were beating each other. It didn't matter who put down Little Joe. It didn't matter who.
Little Joe hasn't made an appearance in like 3 months, dude. So he had to
we'll
make
talk.
one.
We'll talk about Little Joe in a little bit.
Good. I'm sorry. Good. I'm sorry.
But it's kind of turned to where, first it was the bottom teams beating each other, and then it was the mid-pack teams beating each other. Now I think it's the top tier teams beating each other, and which makes it a great conference. You look at Benton County and Megs. That's been another series over the last few years and throughout the history of it, but especially the last few years that have gone back and forth. And then obviously Nelsonville York has an advantage on, it seems like, everybody in the conference. And I don't think you can go by common opponents, because if you do, we should be 3-3 against Wellston in the last 6 years, and we're not. We're 7-0, so, or 7 years. But it's about matchups. It's about matchups, and I think it's possible that week one, we had the delay, nobody's there, it's all kind of weird to everybody. I'm sure it did take a little bit of time for the kids to kind of get back to where, okay, this is normal now. We're here to play football just like we always have. Not using any of that as excuses. The fact is, we have a loss, and they're still undefeated in conference play. Or no, they have one loss in conference play too, right? Correct? Yeah, to Wellston. So,
yeah.
I mean, we're both in a situation where we still kind of control our own destiny. Obviously, they need Wellston to lose to be able to finish with that one loss mark. And I think everything's still on the table for these teams. But whoever loses this game, I think that their hopes for a 2020 championship, whatever that might be, is probably over. Not saying anything about the season, because everybody's got something to look forward to in week 7 as we kick off the playoffs. But in terms of the TVC Ohio, 2 losses is probably not going to be able to claim anything. 1 loss, you still have a very good chance where we're sitting right now. So it's a big game. It's a big game for both teams. Obviously, we want revenge from last year. We're back at home. It's the second time we've been there. It's going to be beautiful weather, at least for the forecast right now. It's going to be in the 60s. It's perfect football weather. I know that the game 1 experience on the hillside was probably better than I had anticipated it being. So I really think that you're going to see maybe twice as many people up there as you did in the first week. And, it's going to be a heck of an atmosphere, at least, on that side of the field. I guess you could call that our dog pound, that dog pound side of the field where, Nelsonville York is, if something's going on, they're going to hear those people. Definitely going to hear those people over there. So maybe that might help. A little bit of home field advantage there, but as for the game itself, it's going to be one of those old school, who can run more type of games. I don't look for us to do a whole lot of passing in this game. I think both teams are going to want to control the clock. I think obviously last week we passed a lot because River Valley's secondary was so young, and we felt like we had that advantage, so we exploited that, and we did a good job. In this case, I think the best game plan for us is to focus on the run and stop the run on defense. That's it. That's what it's going to come down to. Both these teams are going to want to do the same thing, and it should be one heck of a game, just like it has been the last 5 years.
Yeah, I think if you look at, and I know you talked a little bit about the Nelsonville and Meggs game and said it in Bradley, but Nelsonville goes down and scores on the first drive. Meggs comes out, throws a pick. Nelsonville capitalizes on the pick. Meggs comes out, next play, fumbles the ball. They capitalize on the fumble ball, score again. Meggs even got a block punt in a series or two later that got a block punt right in the end zone and gave him another score. So you look at that game and you're kind of like, oh, that was a blowout. But that first quarter was an absolute mess for the Meggs Marauders. So
yeah.
I think the game could have been closer. And again, Coulter got hurt towards the end. So, that changed it too. We heard he was hurt a little before it. We don't know if that's true or not. I was told it was a twisted ankle before, and he hurt his collarbone, I guess, in the game. So I think when we're going into this game, you got Drew Carter, who's a first-year quarterback that's actually played pretty well for those guys. But you got Colt Snyder, a big pound-em type running back, fullback, hasn't really exploded on the yardage. But we're kind of a rivalry for Colt Snyder by himself, actually. I mean, for some reason, he doesn't like Benton County. He doesn't like our podcast. We know that. He doesn't, he's always talking crap to our kids. This is a game where he kind of comes to play, too, by the way. And you're talking about we're going to run, they're going to run. It's going to be a battle of a big clash of heads. And they're going to be looking at that River Valley game and seeing how bad we did against that run against River Valley. And I think you're going to have a really big-time matchup with Colt Snyder and the power game in Nelsonville York coming at us. And how are we going to react to that? I mean, it's going to be a heck of a game to watch.
It is. It is. And it is, like Nate said, it's going to come down to controlling the clock, power run game. But don't give up on the pass yet, fellas. I mean, the first 2 weeks for Nelsonville, they threw the ball, I believe, 35-plus times against Trimble and Wellston. So they're not going to abandon it. And, we've thrown the ball a little more as of late. So you're still going to see that. But I think it does boil down to controlling the clock and time possession, who comes out on top of this game.
Yeah, and we know our secondary instances we had against Joey Moore and Coulter, for that matter, too. I mean, I don't think we need to have our secondary locked down against these guys. Brandon Phillips is out, by the way, so Ethan Gale's probably the primary receiver at tight end right now for these guys. And I think like I said, I think the matchup was great for us. They're coming into our place. We're a good pound and running team. They got a good offensive defensive line, but I don't think their throwing game is going to come into play as much as ours might. I think we might see our passing game as the difference in this game. So I think you're right, Brad. I think we might have that weapon they don't see coming, to be honest with you, because I know we passed against River Valley, but I'm sure Nelson was watching that tape and saying, well, that was River Valley. I mean, that wasn't our defense against River Valley. That wasn't our offense against River Valley. So if they think that tape tells them a lot, they're going to be wrong when they evaluate it. So,
all right, you guys got anything else? Anything else we need to add here before we take a break?
Don't you want to talk anything about what's going to happen on the outside of the fence there, Brad? What's going on there for the week?
It'll be the same as it's been in the past. I mean, the tailgaters will be there. We will have sliders, and we'll have brats, and we'll have hot dogs and the normal things. The last time we had some boiled corn. We do want to kind of touch on what I think maybe was a concern for the school in week one is social distancing, making sure we're wearing our if you're wearing a face shield or if you're wearing a gaiter or you're wearing a mask, make sure you're doing those things and take care of each other. And that's the main thing I think the school wants us to do is make sure we're honoring all the things that need to be done outside of the fence as the same things that are being done inside the fence. So that's something I wanted to do as far as out in the tailgate area. Outside of that, I look for a good time like we always have, and look forward to watching Vinton County pull off a nice, hard-fought win, hopefully this Friday.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Well said. All right, so Little Joe. We'll talk about Little Joe at the end of the show. I promise. I'll give you a chance to talk about Little Joe.
Okay.
But
Okay.
we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come
Talk
back.
about Big Joe.
We're going to come back next. We're going to talk about our predictions for this Friday. You're listening to the Red Zone. All right, welcome back to the Viking Red Zone Report. Nathan Lamb here alongside Lugs Harold, Little Joe, and Brad Rose. As we come back on the show, we're going to talk about the rapid fire predictions we have. We have submitted our predictions. I do want to point out, obviously I wasn't here, I couldn't gloat, but I knew I had to step my game up last week. I just couldn't have Brad rolling these 10-0 games off, every week. So I knew I had 8-2 is great on a normal year. If you go 8-2 every week, you'll probably win. But see, this is the thing. It's like the NASCAR playoffs. You get into the playoffs, you got to up your game. You have to up the game. Now, Lugs, you and the group you're still here. You're still doing this, which is great.
Wait. Don't drag me down with the group,
great.
dude. Hold on. Don't drag me down with the group now. That's a whole different level.
The fact is that you have to go up to get on Brad's level, and I achieved that last week, and we're going to do the same thing. I know some of my picks this week are a little iffy. Maybe went out on a couple limbs for the first time this year, so we're going to cover all that. Hopefully, I can make some ground up on Brad. At least I'm guaranteed second place, so that's all that I care about after 3 weeks. I'm at least in the top half, so I guess that's it's a feather in the cap, but. So what I just wanted to point that out before we got things rolling. So go ahead, Lugs. Go ahead.
There is a rumor flying around that the reason Nathan disappeared was because he gave his phone to Ryan this week, Stewart, and let him do his picks, and that's why he didn't come on the show because he couldn't voice and back up what he picked. But I mean, hey, whatever you got to do to win, dude. It's okay. So we will go over the standings real quick. Obviously, Brad's winning the series at the moment, 29-1. 29-1, not 29-1. So, yeah, having a heck of a year, by the way. Nathan 25-5. I am 22-8. Feel like I'm doing awesome, and yet I'm losing. It's kind of sucking. But the group is 18-12, which makes me feel way better. Okay, way better. Tell Jimmy he's welcome on the show anytime. Okay, so we'll go over the games. We obviously got the 10 best. Go ahead.
Who do we have picking? Guest picking this week?
We have Timmy McManus is the guest picker this week.
Yeah, that's right. He was the guest. On the last show. Yep.
Yes. We got Timmy's picks, and we told him no pressure because Jimmy went 5-5. You can't hardly do worse than that. So he's good.
Not really.
But I kid with Jimmy. He's a good guy, man. We're gonna give him another shot at. So a little bit of probably nerves got him, is what I'm guessing. Nerves got him.
Well, I think maybe his nose was just a little too big for his face. I don't know. Sorry, Jimmy.
Yeah, we got to work on that, don't we? We got to work on that. So. He'll never come on the show again now, dude. We're gonna make you mad. We love you. Hey, if we pick on you, we love you. If we didn't like you, we wouldn't say nothing about you, right? So
right, yeah,
that's how we are. So okay, we're gonna start off. Obviously, we got the 10 best matchups we could come up with in Southeastern Ohio. We're going to go with the first game, which is probably the best matchup of the week, by the way, non-TVC anyway. The Willersburg Pirates, 3-0, are taking on the Waverly Tigers, who are also 3-0. Now, Willersburg beat Chillicothe 31-0. They beat Memphis 42-28. Memphis is a heck of a team. They're 2-1, and they beat Oak Hill 52-7. Kind of hammered them pretty good. Waverly has beaten Granville 36-35. That was a heck of a game. Portsmouth West, they beat 49-13, and Valley, they beat 56-10. 1-2, 1-2, and 1-2. That's the records that Waverly's played. They haven't played anybody with a winning record yet. Waverly has played somebody with a winning record. So right now we've got me, Nathan, and Timmy, who took with the Willersburg Pirates. Bradley, you took the Waverly Tigers. Tell me why you took the Waverly Tigers in this game. Yeah.
Waverly's year, they've got a senior-laden line. Yes, they haven't played a lot of great teams. Granville might be the best team that either of those two schools played. It was a tight game. There's just no doubt in my mind this is Waverly's year. You both have to admit if Wheelersburg beats Waverly, it's an upset. I mean, it really is.
Boy, I don't know because
I don't know about that, man.
You look at what Wheelersburg's been able to do this year. I mean, they're proving that they're still a very, very good team. I mean, even though they graduated a lot, it seems like they do every year. They're kind of like Jackson, but on somewhat of a little bit different scale. But they're always good. And in the SOC, I don't know the last time that they lost an SOC game, and they've played some pretty good teams in that conference over the last few years. But I think it's kind of, at least in the SOC, Nelsonville York has won the TVC many times, and it's not because they have the best team. It's just because they expect to do it, and mentally they do. And you have to overcome that, that mental aspect of it. And I think that's the same thing with the SOC in Wheelersburg. I think Waverly is the better team. Don't get me wrong. I think they have more talent, but I think that they also have to overcome that mental hurdle. And I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a really close game, but I think you're going to see Waverly make a mistake or two, and it's going to snowball, and Wheelersburg is going to pull it off. That's why I went with Wheelersburg. I'm really happy you went with Waverly, Brad, because it's going to be a great game either way. And you may very well be right. We might be right. But if there was ever a game on the schedule this week where I could take a chance and go separate from you to try to make a game up, I'm glad it was this one, because this is going to be a great game to talk about next week.
It is too. So, okay, so moving on, the Fairfield Union Falcons, a team that we have seen very often, by the way, until last season, 0-3 are taking on at the Logan Elm Braves, by the way, the 1-2 Logan Elm Braves. We all took the Logan Elm Braves, and by the way, Fairfield is 0-3. They have lost to Clear Creek. They got hammered. Taze Valley, they got hammered. Hamilton Township, they got hammered. The Logan Elm Braves took on Taze Valley, got beat. It was a close game. They took on Hamilton Township. They kind of got hammered there, and they beat the 0-3 Circleville Tigers. So I think they're the Tigers, aren't they? I'm not sure Circleville's nickname.
Oh, the only critique I have about me not being on the show, Lugs, is you butcher these mascots.
Oh yeah, well, they're
like
mascots.
You're like,
who cares?
Who is that?
All you gotta do is put a collar in front of a mascot, and you got it anyway. That's all. I mean, if you don't know it, just say Purple Lions or something. That's all you gotta do.
The only other thing is, you said that the last time we beat Athens was 1999. We didn't play them in 99. We actually beat them in 95. That's
the last time.
That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay, well, that makes it win even better, though. But yeah, thanks.
Anyway, continue.
Thanks for chopping me down. Good job, Nathan. You're Browns lover. So
we'll talk about that.
Anyway, so all right, Fairfield Union, Logan Elm. We've all took the Logan Elm Braves. Probably ain't a whole lot to talk about on this one, so we'll just go ahead and move on. The Hillsboro Indians at 0-3, kind of surprised they're struggling this year, by the way. I think this is the worst year our work's had with those guys so far. So taking on the Washington Blue Lions, by the way, the Blue Lions, because they're scarier if they blue. 0-3, by the way, for the Washington Blue Lions. Big surprise for these guys. I think that they're sitting at 0-3 too. Me, Nathan, and Bradley all took the Washington Blue Lions. Timmy couldn't go against the coach. Couldn't do it. Goes with the Hillsboro Indians. So, well, how bad do you think Timmy's going to feel at the end of this game?
I think Washington is probably one of the best winless teams left right now. They've had a really tough schedule. Been in some ball games. Obviously Chillicothe had to work to beat them as bad as they did, but I think Hillsboro is obviously graduated a lot over the last couple of years to go from where they were at 9-1, I think a few years back, and Coach O'Rourke was the Division 3, I think it was Southeast Coach of the Year just a couple years ago. So obviously, he's going to game plan and have them ready to play. I think it's going to be a tighter game than what Hillsboro's seen the last 3 weeks, because they've also played a fairly tough schedule as well. But I still think Washington is. I think the Washington Blue football team is just a little bit better.
Okay, yeah, and actually Hillsboro's played Western Brown. They lost to them 6-62. They played Miami Trace. That wasn't a bad game, 13-28, and they played Chillicothe and got beat 14-41. I believe that Chillicothe's 2-1 right now. So,
yeah,
not. I mean, I don't know. They're obviously struggling though. But I mean, you want to really look at a game that separates these guys. It's a Memphis where, Washington went and gave Memphis everything they could handle. And we know Memphis a great team right now. So, I don't think Hillsboro's looked anywhere close to being able to compete with a Memphis right now either. So, anything you want to chime in on that game there, Rose?
No, not really. I mean, we know this is kind of it's a battle of the no-win teams here, but I don't know. The Chillicothe loss, close. Outside of that, there's nothing really to compare these two teams. You don't know what's going to happen here.
And you look at the FAC as a whole. You have Jackson that's normal. They're just winning like always. And then you have Chillicothe that, at least in terms of Southeast Ohio, is probably above average, but not great. And then the rest of the conference, honestly, is you've got Washington, who again I think is an average Southeast Ohio team.
In there? Miami Trace is in the fact, right?
Miami Trace.
They're 3-0.
Miami Trace.
Yeah, they're having a good year.
Week.
I think it's so. I think Trace and Washington are kind of opposite of the situation for them. Miami Trace has played a weak schedule. They won all the games.
Every team is 0-3 that they played.
Yeah. So I think by the end of the year, I think what you're going to see is Washington 3-3, and you're going to see Miami Trace 3-3. Washington's a better team. So even though Trace has the better record, they're not the better team. But the rest of the conference is absolute dog crap. I mean, look at it. It's trash.
Yeah.
McLean, Hillsboro, sorry, coach, but, you just don't have the talent this year. And, that conference as a whole, you take away Jackson and Chillicothe, and there's not a team in that conference that would win the TBC hockey, if you take away those two, to be quite honest with you. So it's just not, it's not good. It's not good. That was my fact dig for the day. So move on.
All right, let's go. We're going to moving on to the SBC, I guess. So Southeastern Panthers 1-2. A little bit of a disappointing start to the season for these guys. Are taking on the Zane Trace Pioneers, who are also 1-2. Nathan, me, and Timmy all took the Zane Trace Pioneers. Bradley is still clinging to the Lane Ruby days in Southeastern, I think, with the 1-2. Southeastern has lost to Westfall, who is 2-1. They lost 0-20. They did beat the Huntington. What are they? Pioneers, I think, or Huntsman. Huntsman. Yeah. See there, I go butchering it again. 0-3. They are 0-3 Huntsman though, but they did beat them 44-28, and they lost to the Piketon Red Streaks last week. I believe I called that one 16-46. So
I think we all did.
Yeah, I think. Hey, I didn't say you did. I just said I did.
It's like saying that's like saying you called Ohio State beating Michigan. I mean, come on, that's just.
Zane Trace also beat Huntington, by the way. Also, they lost to Westfall 21-36, and they lost to Unionta 18-23. So, you pull out like opponents 44-28 for the Southeastern Panthers and 25-0 for Zane Trace. I don't know. That's kind of a little bit of a push. I guess you got to lean a little bit towards the Southeastern Panthers, but. Bradley, again, you're the lone one this time, dude. What'd you see in Southeastern? Do you think they're going to take Zane Trace?
I think they will. I think Zane Trace is a little down this year. Of course, we all agreed on that. They've had some struggles. They got a few key injuries this week, and I think
insider information.
I think Southeastern is going to take this game, So
he knows a lot of people over there, by the way. He knows a lot of people in that area, so we probably should. We should probably listen to him, don't you think? Maybe.
Well, it's hard to listen to him when we keep our picks secret.
Well, yeah,
like Fort Knox.
That's why we do it. That's why we do it. Okay. Well, we'll find out. I don't know. I think Southeastern is looking at a 1-9 season. Could be wrong. We'll find out.
Well,
so
if they go 1-9, that's amazing because they don't play 9 games.
Well,
10
okay.
games,
They
but
might play 9. You don't know. You don't know. Everybody else. We're the only team in Southeastern Ohio that ain't got a 10-game schedule right now.
they're so bad that they're going to turn 7 losses into 9.
Hey,
They'll lose
everybody in the
twice.
SEC has a schedule, so I'm just telling.
Yeah, that's because they're smarter than us. But
Yeah.
anyway, let's continue.
All right, big game in the TVC hockey, by the way, this week. The 1-2 Eastern Eagles and the Waterford Wildcats are 2-1. We're split on this one. This is a big game, by the way. This is number 2 and 3, by the way, in the hockey, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Me and Timmy took the Eastern Eagles. I got a friend that coaches at the Eastern Eagles, so I got a little bit of loyalty to him. I'm going with the Eastern Eagles. They got their big linebacker healthy. They're coming back strong for the first time that they have been all season long. So Waterford Wildcats are obviously 2-1. They still got a shot at winning the hockey. You and Brad stuck together on this one with Waterford. Either one of you, just tell me why you're going to win this one.
Go ahead.
Same deal. Same deal why Eastern couldn't beat Trimble, because it's mental. Waterford's the same way. It's been Waterford and Trimble the last 5 years in the Hawking, and everybody else has been absolutely trash. It's not even been close. These games have been 40-point blowouts for the last 5 years. Obviously it's going to be close. I expect a good game from Eastern. I just don't think. I think mentally, it's Trimble and Waterford in the Hawking, and if Eastern obviously proved that they could play with Trimble, a few weeks ago as they lost, 10-7 on a field goal, but I just think you're going to see again the same thing I talked about before in these games that where it becomes more mental than anything else. You're going to see mistakes at the end of the game. I just think it's going to come down to mistakes, and I think Waterford's not going to make them. They're seasoned. They're playoff playoff caliber team year in and year out over the last 5 years, and they're just going to pull this one off.
I think Eastern has an all-state linebacker, an all-state fullback, and an all-state tailback from last year that came back this year. I think if they wouldn't have got hurt, you'd be looking at a team that could have possibly been 2-1 going into this game too. The loss to Caldwell that Eastern had, I don't know what happened there. It's the first game of the year. Nobody had a lot of scrimmages to begin with. Caldwell's not a garbage team, but they're not a great team. And Eastern just laid a duck against them. But after that, the Trimble loss is really the only one they had, where they were close for the first half against Trimble, and we all know how good Trimble is. So I think they beat Waterford. We're going to find out. So, okay.
How do you lay a duck? Like
they laid a duck.
how do you lay one? Then?
Visually imagine laying a duck. I don't know.
It's not a live birth. I mean, they lay eggs. They don't have a live birth.
I'm just saying they laid a duck. I don't know. They laid a duck.
Somebody pooped a duck out on the field there. So
yeah, well, they laid about 20 of them on that field that day. So, but all right, we're gonna move on to the.
I'd ask.
The Portsmouth Trojans 1-2 are going to the Chesapeake Panthers, who are 1-2. We all took the Chesapeake Panthers. So, is there any chance at all for the Portsmouth Trojans to pull off this win?
Yes, there is. If I go down there and lick all of Chesapeake's balls.
They're footballs. I'm hoping you mean, right?
Yeah, and then
you're going to make them slick for them. Okay, moving on from that game. Good luck, Chesapeake. We're just going to let that one go. All right, we're getting into the Memphis Falcons at 2-1. Again, an absolutely amazing team right now. I think their only losses to the Waverly Tigers. Taking on the Oak Hill Oaks, who are 1-2. A little bit of a struggle for the Oak Hill Oaks right now. We all took the Memphis Falcons. Looks like they're getting ready to make a heck of a run at the playoffs. No chance for Oak Hill here, I'm assuming. How did Memphis bounce back? We just seen these guys 2 years ago, and they weren't that talented. And then all of a sudden now they're starting to dominate again. So I don't know. What do you think?
Go ahead, Rose. I don't know that much about Memphis.
So I think part of it is you look at the SOC. Obviously, that's where they play. When you have to play Waverly and Wheelersburg, and typically Valley's better than what they are. But when you're playing these teams, and now add in Oak Hill as they moved up last year, when you're playing these type of teams, man, it's either you're gonna just lay down and give up, or you're gonna work and get better. And I think on a different scale but similar, you look at the TVC Ohio and Nelsonville York. They're the same way. They meet the competition's level and exceed it. They don't just give up because they're smaller, a disadvantage, or whatever, whatever the case may be. I think what you see in Memphis is a program that's always been mediocre, average throughout the last 20 years or so.
That's what she said.
But you look at that, and then when they do get some talent that comes in, they're prepared, and they're used to seeing the Wheelersburgs of the world, and when you see that on a weekly and yearly level, you're able to knock off the teams that you should. So I think that's what it is. So.
Yeah, good for them. I mean, like I said, it's good that they're back up to the top. I mean, they've been there before, and then they kind of fell down. So good for them.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the TVC part of the schedule. Did he really say lick the balls, Bradley? Did I hear him right?
Yeah, he's been gone for a while, Doug.
Yeah,
you don't know what happened to him while he was cooped up inside that bedroom all by himself.
Yeah. I'm sure you're over COVID. Has it affected the brain?
There might be some lingering effects. I mean, they don't really know.
So.
They don't really know. So.
All right, so we're getting into the TVC Ohio part of this schedule here. So the Warren Warriors, 2-1, excellent start for these guys. They're looking really good. Are going into the Megs Marauders, who are 2-1, who just got a shellacking by the Nelsonville York Buckeyes. Haven't heard of Coulter Cleveland's out of this game or not. We all picked the Warren Warriors from the very beginning. I think even with a healthy Coulter, I think they would have had trouble beating the Warren Warriors. But without him, this is going to be like a junior high team playing a varsity high school football team. So I think we can all pretty much agree with that. But if Coulter's there, does the Megs have a shot?
Well, they've got a shot, but I think Warren's offense over the last 2 years has been much improved. I mean, that's kind of what they hang their hat on right now. And with Megs having a defense like they've had, at least what we saw, and now what we've seen with Nelsonville, Megs defense is struggling right now, and they're going to struggle big time with Warren's offense.
I think they are. I think the thing I like about the Warren Warriors right now is track, they're a dominant track team. In basketball, they're a dominant basketball team, but they've struggled in the football side. And I think for years we've been like, well, they got athletes. How are they not winning in football? And I think now you're starting to see that conversion where they're filling the gap on every side. It's actually kind of a good thing because we know they always want to come into the TVC. And, I mean, we're all about being competitive. We want to make the TVC a great conference. So if they can prove they can be that kind of level on the football side of things, we might end up pulling them into the TVC, right? Is that true, Nathan?
No.
No way?
No, they've had plenty of chances. The TVC
there isn't there.
Well, the TVC has had plenty of chances to take them back in. I think location to the rest of the TVC Ohio is the biggest downfall to them getting back in, because it is a long drive for Meigs, Benton County, Wellston, River Valley, even really long drive for them. So I don't think so based on that. Now I could be wrong, but obviously we still have the Fort Fry thing out there where they petitioned. I have not heard a vote on that yet. I think it's the same. I think it's the same deal with them. It's just too far out in left field. They're just too far away. But I don't think so. And another thing I do want to point out, Warren clearly is much improved from where they were. They were your typical 1-9, 0-10 team for like a decade and a half. I mean, they were just awful. And obviously they have got the offensive side of the ball rolling the last couple of years. I think the new coach there, I think he's been there, I think it's his third year, really has changed the offensive culture of Warren. And another thing is they got smart and they started taking the best players from Belpre. So they learned from what Jackson does. They've seen it firsthand. They've learned from Jackson. They've learned from Athens. They were tired of getting beat by these teams that get the best players from the surrounding schools. So they thought, well, we'll do the same thing. We're going to do the same thing. Belpre, you don't matter. We're going to take your best kids and we're going to compete. And that's what they're doing. Good for you. Good job, Warren.
Yeah, they're doing a good job. Okay, moving on to what is probably the biggest battle in the TVC Ohio this entire season. The 0-3 Alexander Spartans are taking on the River Valley Raiders in Bidwell, by the way. The River Valley Raiders are 0-3. It's the battle of the Ophers. One team's coming away with the win this week, guys. One team's going to. Me, Timmy, and Bradley, all three picked the River Valley Raiders. The guy who didn't get to go to the game last week picked the Alexander Spartans. Tell me, Bradley, what did we see that Nathan has no clue about that made him pick the Spartans?
We saw an offense that'll just run the ball down your throat. I mean, depending on who gets the ball, and they've got 4 different kids that'll run the ball. They're getting to the linebacker level on every single play.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't get in there and plug the holes, if you can't come up and wrap up and tackle, if you can't play inside the box, it's going to be a long night for you. And I don't think Alexander has the defense to slow these guys down. And they're going to grind. And the other thing that really buys into River Valley's strength is Alexander kind of runs this spread, at least what I've seen on film, spread offense, and it's been quick 3 and outs. And if you're only holding the ball for, possessing the ball for 30, 45 seconds on a possession, that's going to be a long night when River Valley's probably going to possess that ball for 6-7 minutes a possession, depending on how far they run each time. I mean, I just a long night for Alexander.
I think it is. I think they try to run the spread a little bit, and they try to throw some. They do go tights. They do. They got Logan Neal, great fullback. It comes down to, and I don't know if Nathan watched the game or not on the huddle. I don't know if you checked that out, but for River Valley, it was a Jekyll and Hyde game for these guys. The offense was amazing. The defense, they could have been on the sidelines getting popcorn most of the time, and they'd have played about just as good a defense as they did anyway. We on the field. I mean, we literally scored in 2, 3, 4 plays all the way down the field. We didn't see a third down at one time the entire first half of the game, but that offense was absolutely impressive. And I don't see Alexander as being able to exploit their defense the way we did. We've got athletes all over the football field. So I think for Alexander, they're going to have to try to chunk it down with them, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it. So I think River Valley probably wins this game by a couple scores, to be honest with you, and shocks the whole TVC. They'll be 1-3. Alexander will be 0-4. So, but
you're wrong.
We're going to find out. But
you're wrong.
We're saving the best game for last. This is the best game in the TVC.
Hold on. Let me explain myself.
Well, there's nothing to say. Go ahead.
There's plenty to say.
Yeah, Alexander's going to lose.
There's plenty to say.
Okay, go ahead. I'm ready.
So the reason you guys are wrong is because,
never wrong.
And let me start out by saying if they play the freshman quarterback, if Alexander plays the freshman quarterback that they played, I think River Valley's got a great chance to win the game. If they don't, if they stick with
Karagosian,
or however you say his name, if they stick with him, they're going to win. I'll tell you why. Because they do run the spread, they do get you out in the open, they do make you have to make, they do make the defense have to think. And okay, we can all agree. That's the weak spot of the River Valley Raiders, especially their secondary, because they're so young. They're going to exploit that. Okay, that's key number one to the fact that Alexander's going to have more success on the offensive side of the ball in this matchup. Key number two is Alexander's defense. They held Wellston, a team that over the last year and a half is averaging like 40 points a game. They held them to 6 points in almost the first 3 quarters, and because the freshman quarterback came in and started throwing picks like Oprah throws gifts and fumbles. That's why Wellston built that lead up so fast at the end of that game. I watched the game. It was painful, but I watched the game. And to me, Alexander was toe to toe for 2.5 quarters with Wellston. And if we think Wellston's the best team in the conference, they just beat the crap out of River Valley. I don't even think this is going to be that close because of that. And another thing that I noticed in that game against Alexander and Wellston, was the fact that Alexander controlled that line of scrimmage for the most part throughout that entire game. It wasn't just, the first 3 quarters. It was the entire game. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They just couldn't keep Wellston's playmakers from making plays. River Valley doesn't have those guys. They have 2 really good running backs, and that's pretty much it. The reason they had success against us is because they ran an offense that we don't see. We were not prepared for it. I'll just be honest with you. We were not prepared for that offense.
Yeah.
Alexander, I feel like, is going to be ready for it, and they're going to exploit River Valley's weaknesses. And, just same as we did on the offensive side of the ball, I think you're going to see the same success. And another thing is the Alexander defense. They held Athens to 20 points? Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I think this one's not even close, guys. I think you're all off on this one. I think you got googly-eyed over River Valley being able to run the ball on us a week ago. And I watched the game. I watched the coverage from from Kindred Communications down on the river. I watched the live stream. Offense was awesome. That's an offense that you run when you don't have star players. Now, it helps when you have star players like Lane Ruby because then it becomes a lot easier. But that is an offense that you run when you don't have a lot of talent because you have so many blockers. You can get 4 or 5 yards every time you touch the ball. That's what they did. And again, I think it'll be a competitive game. But I think as long as River Valley goes, or as long as Alexander goes with their seasoned quarterback, the Karagosian kid, I just don't think it's going to be that close. That's my opinion on it. That's probably I don't know, the best breakdown that I got of any TVC Ohio game this week, just because I've seen both of these. I've literally sat in my room for the last week just watching film of everything. So I'm sorry if I'm a little long-winded.
Hey, it's a great breakdown. You might be right. This could be the thing where you're talking about with Willersburg and Brad. I mean, we might be coming on the show next week and you're nailed. Listen, I got a friend that coaches at Alexander. It's not like I'm not rooting for him to be successful, but
you got friends everywhere.
Not really. No, just a couple.
Meggs, Alex, Nelsonville.
You got to keep your connections. You got to. It's like Brad over there in Chillicothe with his insider trading. I got a little bit. Yeah. So, but
he cheats.
All right. Anyways, we're moving on. Can we move on now? Did you get your Alexander ball licking over with that you want to do all the time? I think you want to go lick their balls now. So
ball licking going on this week, boys.
Yeah, I don't know. He likes leather, I guess. I don't know. So, but
it's pigskin. It's not leather.
It's not pigskin anymore. They've been pigskin since 1930. You goober. So
it's the last time the Browns won a championship.
All right. Anyway. All right, the biggest matchup of the week, realistically. I know Alexander and River Valley, I think, is going to be a great matchup, but this is the matchup everybody's talking about. You have the 3-0 Wellston Golden Rockets heading to the 1-2 Athens Bulldogs. Athens obviously struggled a little bit against Marietta. We wasn't expecting it. We beat them. Alexander, they didn't blow Alexander out, by the way, so Athens looks like they're kind of an up-and-down team, but they can sure score quick because it was 24-20. In the end of the game, and it was 24-0 in like the late third quarter of that game, and all of a sudden Athens started putting some numbers up. So Wellston's headed into the Athens Bulldogs. Is this the game Wellston struggles? We've seen them struggle in the first half of many games. Is this a game that Athens pulls it off? By the way, me and Timmy took the Athens Bulldogs. Nathan and Brad, because they love each other, both took the Wellston Golden Rockets. So
I'm going to pick winners, Lugs. I just picked the winners. That's all
right. Well, tell me why this is going to be a winner, Rose. Tell me why. Tell me how Wellston's going to pull this off.
I mean, Wellston makes good adjustments. I mean, they may struggle in the first half like they have against Alexander, like they did a little bit against Nelsonville. But I don't know what it is about their staff and their kids. They come in at halftime, they regroup, and when they come out, it's like a completely different ball team. Probably won't be a whole lot different than what it has been, those two games that we mentioned. And Athens is just struggling right now. I think a lot of their kids play both sides of the ball, where in years past they've had great numbers and been able to have their kids, play single positions and not have so many playing on both sides of the ball. And I think in a 4-quarter game, they start to get worn down a little bit and they're just going to struggle. I mean, that's all I have to say. I don't have any.
No, they scored 20 points in the fourth quarter the last time. It didn't look like they wore down too much there, Rose. So, but
and my argument has been busted, Lug.
It might be true. Tell me, Nathan, why you took Wellston. Why are you taking Wellston over the Athens Bulldogs?
Because of I just think they're the better team. I think this is obviously a game that can go either way. These two teams are kind of trending in different directions over the last couple of years, but we saw firsthand how quickly the Athens Bulldogs can score. It seemed like they answered every time we would take a lead. They would answer like instantly.
So a couple plays, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a shootout. I think you're going to see a lot of points in this game. I think Alexander, obviously Alexander's line was better than what Athens' line is. So in terms of comparing the two, Alexander really did a good job for the most part against both teams on their defensive side of the ball. I think both teams, in terms of Athens and Wellston, their defenses aren't. I know Wellston's defense has played well and not giving up many points, but I think that Athens can exploit any holes that you may have in your defense. Joey Moore, I think you're going to see that. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. It's probably going to come down to mistakes, and I'll be honest with you. This was one that was a real big toss up for me. I had a hard time figuring this one out. And, as I sit here and I'm talking about it, I'm kind of thinking that I kind of wished I would have went with Athens because, now that I've thought about it for a little bit longer, it's like, I just see it being a mental hurdle for Wellston. Obviously they beat them last year. So I don't know. I just think this is the whole slate of games this week has been really difficult compared to the first three weeks we've done this. And
are you saying Rose isn't going 10-0 this week? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I don't think anybody's going 10-0. I think if you go 7-3 this week, you're probably leading the week. So it's just there's too many toss ups. I mean, so many things can happen. But I think this is a game that you're going to see a lot of offense in. It's going to be exciting. If you were able to watch it, which it kind of gets me into. I was going to segue right into that. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about a couple more things. Obviously, those were the rapid fire predictions that we wanted to go over. But we do have a couple things that we want to talk about. The first one is the ability to watch that Athens and Wellston game. The game obviously is in Athens. We'll talk about Little Joe too. Put him down. So. The game actually
winner. Sorry, go ahead.
You got to win a game first. You can't be a winner unless you win a game.
Start this Thursday, baby.
We'll get to that. All right.
Okay.
Let me do what I'm doing here.
Sorry, I'll get sidetracked on video stuff. Okay.
So you can watch the game like you have been able to watch all the Athens games on Nelsonville TV cable. You can watch it on their live stream. It's $10 to access it. No big deal. Majority of the money goes back to whatever school you're watching's athletic fund. The rest of it goes to actual production costs because it's not free to do any of this. Even what we're doing right now is not free. So that's the whole process that Athens has in Nelsonville. All those Athens County schools basically are all live streamed with Nelsonville TV cable and the Edwards family that owns that business. So it's great. What they do is awesome. It's awesome. They're finding a way to get some ticket sales that the schools aren't getting. They're allowing people to watch these games in high quality. So it's kind of the best of the situation at hand. Now, I will say this: other schools are doing the same thing. Not necessarily other schools. It's not the schools that are doing this. It's media outlets. Okay, so Kindred Communications, which if you are like most people in Benton County and you like old classic country music, you listen to 101.5 Big Buck Country. That's a Kindred Communication owned station. They have like 9 radio stations in Southeast Ohio, West Virginia area along the river. They're the ones that produced the game for us at River Valley. They do the River Valley live streams as well as other Gallia County schools and schools around Mason and all that in West Virginia. So they cover those. Now they're 100% free. They don't charge anything, but they are, more spread out. They do have donation where all you gotta do is click a link. You can donate right on the phone or tablet or computer, however you're watching the game. So that's cool too. So they're giving money back as well. They're not charging you, but they are asking for donations. That's great. That's fine. BMG Media, which I'm not really sure what that stands for. It's probably first initials of names. I don't know. But BMG Media does the same thing for Wellston. And I will say, after watching the BMG stream of Wellston and Alexander a couple times this week, the quality of their stream is pretty cool. It's nice. They have multiple camera angles. They have a press box angle, and then they have two. What I gathered, they had 2 field cameras that they could cut to the field at any time. And they also had a drone cam, which really blew me away. So this drone cam was so awesome. They just had it flying around the stadium. As it got darker, you could see the lights coming from the city, and it just looked like the Goodyear blimp was there. Like I was watching a shot from the Goodyear blimp right above C.H. Jones Field in Wellston, and it was really awesome. I will say that. Really cool. That angle was awesome. I loved it. And so, anyway, there's been some. I get to that to get to this, and there's been some talk about the fact that Athens, which is where Wellston goes this Friday to play, is not going to let them live stream the game. And so I thought, you know what, I want to find out all the information I can on this, because I want to make sure that the people out there know the facts. And this is a TVC matchup, and I think, you know, our fans deserve to know exactly what's going on with our member schools. So, and the media outlets that, you know, are trying to bring the players to their families that can't make it. So, BMG Media, again, completely free. You don't have to pay. They have sponsors. Now, they do have sponsor boxes up throughout the feed, which, you know, Kendrick didn't do, but they had commercials. So it's not a big deal. I mean, it's no different than, you know, certain ads on YouTube or whatever. It's not that big of a deal, but that's how they pay their bills, and that's how they bring it to you for free. So I reached out to the actual owner of BMG, because we were talking, first started out on preps. I had some questions that I wanted answered, and this gentleman answered them all. And I felt like that, it was worth discussing and letting people know what exactly is going on. Now, I want to say that I normally don't take up for Wellston because I don't really care about them. So I don't really care. But
This video might clip off right here when we actually go to editing.
In this situation, it you know, you can make your own judgment, and I'll just give you the facts. So BMG reached out to the Athens administration asking if they could live stream the game. They said, well, we don't know. We'll have to talk to people and we'll call you back. They never called back. They never called back. They never called back. They never called back. Wellston multiple times finally got a hold of the athletic director. The athletic director said, yeah, I'll find out. So the next day there was a voicemail to BMG saying that they had a contract with Nelsonville TV cable and they could not in any way live stream the game, period. And so BMG's like, hey, throughout this whole process, they were like, hey, we realize that they charge, we will pay you a fee. We will pay a fee to cover the cost of what you're going to lose from that $10 charge in what, maybe 50 households, maybe you'll lose that. They would cover up to a certain amount of money. And I can tell you that, so I had in my head $700 I felt like would be fair for Wellston to pay, and Athens to say, okay, that's probably more than what we'll make off of Wellston people from watching the live stream. So I felt like $700 would be fair. I will say that the amount that they were willing to pay was substantially higher than $700. I'm not going to say what it was, but it was substantially higher, and they would have definitely made way more money off of what Wellston was willing to pay to be able to stream this game for their fans for free than what they're going to this Friday night by not allowing that. And that's where we're at on the whole situation. So if you want to watch the Wellston game, you're gonna have to do the Nelsonville TV cable live stream, pay the $10 and watch it. So for me, at first I was like, okay, Wellston's being petty. They're not going to go to Athens and tape. It's not a big deal. There's other outlets to watch it and this and that. But then when I found out that they actually said, hey, we'll actually donate to your athletic department a substantial amount of money if you let us do this, and they still said no, that's where I'm like, okay, that's kind of shady. I don't really agree with that. You can come up with your own conclusion on the matter. But I did want to give the facts to the people out there so they know. One other thing I do want to point out, and the whole thing that got this started was during halftime and at the end of the game, the commentators on the BMG, which are not, they don't own BMG, whatever. It's not their business. They're just there to commentate. I'm not going to say any names. You can go back and watch it if you want. But there was one school board member on that call, and he did say that because they weren't going to let them live stream, that there would be repercussions. Yeah, that's the word that came out of his mouth. Now, he stopped about 3/4 of the way through that word, But he did say there would be repercussions, basically saying that Wellston is going to penalize Athens because they didn't allow them to come over there and do their live stream. I think that's a little bit childish. I don't think that should have happened. I think that person should apologize for those remarks. Probably never going to happen. And if it does happen, if there is repercussions, if Wellston does kind of hurt Athens in a certain way down the road in a few months, in a few years, whatever, that's ridiculous. You need kicked out of the conference for that, because that's bull crap. If you've got one of your school board members saying that they're going to penalize another team because we're not getting our way, hi Boomer. That's ridiculous. It's childish. What we do is fun. We have fun. We poke fun, but we're not in any position of power, like a school board member is. So for him to make those remarks because of the situation, I think was childish. So I do want to give Wellston a kick in the butt because of that. But I am kind of on their side. I do feel like they should have been allowed. And Athens is basically saying, we don't want your money. And I don't understand it. What do you guys think? Opinions on the matter? You guys agree, disagree?
I'll let you go first, Rose. You can go ahead.
I'm in agreement. I mean, there should be some sort of a middle ground there for Wellston people to be able to get that stream, be able to watch their grandchildren, their nephews, whatever it may be. And BMG wants to provide that, and they're willing to pay monetarily for that. That's on Athens. Athens should meet them somewhere in that standard. I mean, I don't know how to make amends to that, but I'm in a complete agreement with you, Nate. I mean, I really am.
What do you think, Lugs?
Well, I think you're wrong, and I'll tell you why I think you're wrong. Not only do I think you're wrong, I think it's almost absurd, and I'll tell you why, okay? Obviously, if there was no COVID-19, Wellston could not profit a single penny or any monetary gain whatsoever from this game being played in Athens. It would be all Athens that is profiting from it. The fact that Wellston wants to claim, we want our viewers to watch it. Well, what do you think the Athens fans are going to do if there's an already, you said, better broadcast that's giving it away free? Are they going to go pay $10? Well, no, they're not stupid. They're going to go watch the free one too, so they're going to lose that revenue also. We don't know how much it is, but this is the 3-0 Wellston Golden Rockets heading to the Athens Bulldogs, who still have a shot at winning the TVC title. So not only does this have the potential to be a big game, it could be the biggest gate they have and the biggest sell they sell from the internet. So not only are they completely wrong, they shouldn't even have offered it. They shouldn't be allowed to do it. It is not their turn to profit from it. It's not a popularity contest. Your company can do what they want for your guys. Athens has to do what they want. Listen, people, I know Wellston isn't the richest freaking place in the world. I understand that. But if you were going to drive there, you would be paying $10 in gas to get there. You'd be paying $5 a person for a ticket. You'd be at least taking the mom and the dad to watch the kids play, probably a couple, 2 or 3 kids too. You'd be spending $30 or $40 to run over to Athens to watch the game. Shut your mouths, pay $10 to Athens, enjoy the game. Not to mention, I know I paid for the Nelsonville game a couple weeks ago. I know other people will be paying for that game too that can watch the game that aren't even related to Athens or Wellston. So that's another revenue they're going to be getting. Wellston's just wrong. It's just Wellston wanting to be Wellston, and then threatening them was totally uncalled for to begin with too. Shouldn't have happened. You shouldn't offer it. You get your home games and other people have their home games. It's a COVID world, and that's just how it is right now. So Wellston's wrong.
All right, well,
that might be one of Lugs's most convincing arguments, I think, in all the years I've done this with you fellas. I've changed my opinion. That doesn't happen very often.
Well, I can't argue with that. I think all of those things are right, but as you said, it's COVID-19. Everything's kind of weird right now. So why can't they do that? Why can't it be, give us a little bit, you get a little bit?
It's not how Wellston, it works. Each home team's trying to get that revenue, dude. I mean,
I understand that, but at the same time, they offered a substantial amount, and I'm telling you, Lugs, it's going to be more than what they're going to make off this game. I'll tell you off air because you don't know. I haven't told you yet, but it is, and that might sway your argument a little bit. But
it would have it would have been paying for the whole season almost for me. I mean,
okay, all right. Well, I see. I see both sides of it. My biggest issue from it is the remarks that were made by a person in power. I don't agree with that. the other things, we can argue about it all day long. I just wanted to put the facts out there so people could make their own case.
I want to point
Brad
out
and
too, you got to think about this also, that Nelsonville TV is in their backyard, and how are you going to be going forward with them if you piss them off letting Wellston come in too? I mean, obviously it's a bad move for Athens to let them make. There's a million reasons for Athens to say no, and the only reason to say yes is maybe the possibility of gain of money that they're sending to them. So,
So, great points. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. To see the other side of it. Everybody out there listening, you can form your own opinion. Let us know who's right. Let us know if we're right, we're wrong, whatever. The only other thing that I want to mention before we get on, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the NFL over the weekend, because I haven't talked to anybody in like 10 days, so I'm ready to talk. The only other thing that I want to talk about that I took issue with over the weekend was the fact that Wellston, obviously they're complaining about the situation with not being able to stream next week's game or this week's game. But at the same time as these people were threatening the Athens program from the press box at Wellston, their band was sitting on the Alexander side. Okay. For those of you that weren't there, didn't watch the stream, don't know, Wellston put their band on the Alexander road bleachers. They petitioned about a third of the bleachers off, and they allowed their band to sit over there. Now, number one, bands aren't traveling for road games. Okay, they're not traveling for road games because they're not necessary. They're deemed not necessary to travel, which that's fine. I have a kid in a band. They work just as hard as anybody else. They deserve to be able to play in front of crowds and all that. But I get the fact that, maybe it's not a good idea for them to travel. That's fine. Well, the whole point of that is so you have less people intertwining with other communities. And what Wellston did was basically said, hey, band, you don't really matter. You all can get sick. It don't matter. We're still going to play football. So we're just going to stick you over there because you don't really matter. And we want more seats over here for our fans to watch the actual football game. So you just go over there with Alexander. Try not to touch anybody or get too close to anybody because they might have the disease. We don't know because they're not from here. Basically, they guinea pigged them over there, and I completely disagree with that decision. It also cuts down on the amount of tickets that Alexander can buy because they're only allowed to sell. They're only allowed to fill 15% of the road bleachers. So you cut that down by a third. It's ridiculous all the way around. So you're sitting there as a school board member complaining about one thing, but yet you're doing something very similar and more dangerous, way more dangerous, right at that very moment. And that's what I don't understand how you can do that and how you justify that. It's ridiculous. They need to do what Benton County did, find an alternative area and let the band be there. That way they're by themselves. They're not around anybody else. They can still play their thing and do the things that they do. And then you also have your entire bleachers opened up for fans to be able to spread out and do it safely. And people stick to the same side of the field. There's no intertwining of communities because that's how this thing spreads. And, that's the biggest issue that I had with it. Am I off base on that? Am I wrong on that? Should they be allowed to do that? Am I making too big of a deal out of this? What do you guys think?
Yeah, Jason, I'll let you go.
I'm in complete agreement. I think it's absurd, not only to cut down on your availability of seating for your visitors, but then to place, just like you said, children, because that's what they really are, from your community in with another community that's in another county adjacent to you that's had some issues with COVID over the last few months. It's very poor judgment, I think, on Wellston's behalf. Like you said, they could do something similar where they place their band in the far end zone or on the track, similar to what Big County does. And really, to look at the overhead drone shots, I don't see where their stands were real packed. Yeah. I think there was room for them to put their band on their own side. Completely unnecessary and very poor judgment. Hopefully that gets rectified before week 6 when Benton County goes there to visit, because it probably won't be pleasant.
No, there'll probably be law involved with a couple of these people from here.
Did we just threaten Wellston, by the way, after we talked about Wellston threatening Athens? I think that's what we just done, didn't we?
No, we're not. What I'm saying is people are not going to give their seats up for the home team's band if we're on our side. I can just see. I know. Yeah. I could count. I could think of 25 people right now that will go to jail before they give their seat up.
Well, let me ask you this, and trust me, people in Benton County are fighting for the seats they get right now. Anyway, trust me, I've got people that have kids in the program that are like, why these people got 6 people here and I can't get my grandma and grandpa into the game? But then you'll go to the game and, some people have 8 people there sitting there in the stands that got all tickets for their whole family up and down. So, I mean, it's a big fight for it. But how do you know this? Let me ask you this before you pass judgment on Wellston, okay? How do you know that they didn't offer tickets to Alexander? Alexander reported to them how many they had sold, and they knew they had that extra space in the seats on the other side and fenced it off properly so that they could have their band over there. Now, the bad thing is you're not supposed to mingle opposite sides, so that's a good point. But maybe Alexander's numbers were low. Maybe they didn't chop off their number of tickets. Maybe that's just an assumption that we're making. But
well, that is an assumption because, you can put 15% capacity in your bleachers. And, let's face it, the road bleachers at Wellston are in terms of TVC Ohio, they're a little above average in size.
Yeah, they got pretty good.
Which is
bleachers.
What she said. But I think whether they cut it off or not, I still think that it's wrong. And I suppose I could be off base in saying that because that might not have happened. Alexander might have said, "Hey, we need 150 seats." And they said, okay. And then they decided to put their band over. I mean, I could see where that could happen, but
I mean,
Alexander's
not a big travel school. We know that too. Alexander doesn't.
But like Brad said, with the drone footage, I mean, there was plenty of room on the Wellston side for the band to set. I mean, even in our week 1 game against Megs, we had plenty of room in our bleachers. The band could have sat where they normally do. Now, some of that was probably due to the fact that, there were tornadoes blowing around everywhere that first week and rain and, the unknown. Yeah. So people probably weren't knocking down doors to get into the stadium that night. But, in the situation, of Friday, we saw how sparse everything was, and there was just no need for it. I mean, there was just no need at all. It's like it's just unnecessary. It's an unnecessary move to do that, and it makes them look bad. It makes them look petty, and that's the whole point. So they're trying to make Athens look petty by not letting them, saying that they're not going to let us come over and do the game. So that's petty. Well, what you just did was petty. So I just think it's stupid. So I mean, but again, it's all about what your perspective and which side you see. I feel like the last couple things we've hit on here have been really two-sided. You can really make a case for either side. So again, if you're still watching, you want to comment, let us know. We'll continue the conversation down the road if we need to. If it's something that you want to talk about, we'll try to dig more into it and find out some more information. I'll try to find out if they actually cut Alexander's tickets or not. I probably can find that out just to clarify that. But we'll keep it going. Obviously, Wellston has 4 home games this year, so this is something that we're going to find out again real fast the following week if when Fort Fry comes to play, if it's changed, if it's not, we'll hit it again. We'll do it again. So, but I did want to cover that before we jumped off here. Now I will Lugs allow you, to take a couple minutes here as we wrap the show up, talk a little bit about Little Joe and what he means to you and how excited you are that that you guys almost didn't lose. That was awesome. You almost didn't lose. Yeah. I was so happy. Honestly, I wanted to see Joe succeed, and he did for the most part. He had a very respectable game for your first game ever. Yeah. Did everything he could to win the game. Should have won the game. That was not that was a bogus call. That push off on AJ Green was bogus to me. He didn't get any separation. There was no way that defender was going to stop them from completing that pass, whether his arms were extended or he had no arms. He was still going to catch the ball. So it was a perfectly placed ball by Joe, something that he's done 1,000 times in his life. And it was sad to see them actually lose. But then for a minute, I was like, you know what, that makes sense. It makes sense for Joe Burrow to go down and win the game, but they kind of actually lost. So it's the Cincinnati way, right?
It's the Randy Bullock way. I know that. So it's funny. I was actually watching the game with one of my friends, Jared Collins. Brad knows him. You know, he's your neighbor.
I'm looking right at his chickens right now. I'm out back. I see the chickens.
He comes over to watch the game with me, and we're watching the drive, and the whole game's kind of an up and down emotional thing, because it wasn't really
the game itself was awful.
Yeah. It was a battle. It was a battle of the defense.
It was a battle of two sucky teams.
We were playing well. The defense, I was impressed with our defense. But anyway, we go
down.
down.
Taylor sucks.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So well, we made him look like he sucked. So we did what we should have done. So, but hey, we did okay though. I'm okay with how we played. I'm okay. It was a good defense and everything else. But look, we went down to kick the kick, and before he kicked it, Jared jinxed the whole thing. Jared's like, Bullock sucks. He'll probably miss this kick. I can just see him doing it. And I'm like, oh, no, Jared, we're going into overtime. And then he missed it. And I wanted to spider monkey Jared and just jump on the couch and beat the tar out of him. I was like, he does this all the time, man. He jinxed it.
But Bullock made 20-some straight from inside 40 yards.
Yeah, but he can't make one past 45. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah, but he was almost automatic from that range. And I mean, it's a 31-yard kick. I've kicked a 31-yard field goal. It's not that hard. I mean, literally.
It was a great game. And by the way, for little Joey, just so everybody knows, this was a Christmas gift for me from Timmy McManus a couple years ago. And I keep it right on my desk all the time because I'm a Bengal fan. Well, then when Joey got drafted by the Bengals, I just nicknamed this guy Little Joe, and he tends to make appearances on Nathan whenever he gets a chance. He likes to say hi to Nathan and come in because we just want to remind Nathan who his favorite Southeastern Ohio player is and who he plays for. So, Little Joe.
That's because there's only one Southeastern Ohio player in the NFL right now, so he has to be my favorite, right?
Yeah,
I mean, wait a couple years when Carrico's up there, then maybe it'll be a toss-up if he joins the Browns, but I do want to say that he looked really good as a first game starting quarterback in the NFL. It's amazing to think of just how far he's come and where he's at right now. It's almost it's a dream come true. I mean, it really is for people in Southeast Ohio. I envy you guys. I wish he was a part of my team because number one, my quarterback sucks. So anything would be better. I mean, I'd probably take Tyrod back because Baker's awful. But anyway. It was awesome.
Think your loss was better than our loss there earlier this week, didn't he?
I'm not saying it was better. I'm just saying we lost to a Super Bowl caliber team. And
but to lose, don't you have to show up to the game though? I mean, how can you say you lost when you didn't even show up to the game?
Well, we did show up. We played pretty well for the first couple seconds.
I'll tell you what. Before the ball was kicked off, you guys looked as good as Baltimore. You did. You looked just as good as Baltimore until the ball got kicked off.
The old jerseys are nice. They going back to the way things should be. No, we played like maybe the worst I've ever seen.
Probably was actually.
But I do think a little bit of it was the fact that it was Baltimore. It is Super Bowl or bust for Baltimore.
Yeah,
I think we all agree on that. They've got an MVP caliber quarterback, and he just absolutely just destroyed us. I think it was one of those things where, and again, we have a lot of attitudes. We have a lot of Madonnas on our team. So like when things start going bad, they just kind of tailspin.
People quit pre-Madonnas.
Pre-Madonnas.
Okay.
People quit trying Odell Beckham. They just go out there and run around. And get mad when they don't get the ball when they're open, but then when they're open and they get the ball, they can't catch it. So I don't understand the makeup of that. I think unless they come back this Thursday, which is going to be a big game, unless they come back this Thursday and really let Cincinnati have one and show that they're not trash, it's going to be a long year. And it's not Stefanski's fault. I think he's going to be a good coach. I think we have too many egos on the team, and I think our quarterback is highly overrated, and this thing probably needs blown up. And I'm the last one to want to blow something up, especially after 1 week. But it just looks so bad. I mean, it looks so bad. I don't even. I threatened Sunday on Facebook. I threatened to just stop.
I saw the breakdown.
It's been 20 years of battered and beaten and just
we
destroyed.
Bengal fans have been there, buddy. You just got to weather the storm, man.
Weather the storm. It's my entire life. I shouldn't have to feel abused by my
sports
Rose,
teams. You know you're going to say the same thing I am. Just jump over to the real team, bud. You right?
No.
I mean, the wagon ain't full yet, dude. Jump over to the wagon. Come on.
Well, when you guys can finally beat the Chargers, maybe I'll think about it. But until then, you just keep pumping those chests about those almost wins. And little Joe, keep putting the numbers up, but keep losing because I can't stand it.
We've got to wrap this up. I got to take my son to practice, and we're going to lose to Nelsonville York. Okay, so
right. I'm sorry. I mean, I've been cooped up for a week, so it's nice to be able to get outside and talk a little bit of sports. So, I mean, we hit on a few things at the end there. We might cut a few things out, but we'll see what happens. You guys got anything before we take off?
I'm good to go. I'm excited for this week. What are you doing?
Yes.
Getting yelled
at. He's got business to take care of.
There's a random fan just came.
This is why we don't do video right here. This is why we don't do video.
Random fan wanted an autograph. I told her to get away.
Security came and get that a lot.
Took her away. So anyways, that's going to wrap up the show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Good conversation, good debates. That's going to do it. For Lugs Herald, Brad Rose, I'm Nathan Lamb. You've been watching and / listening to the Viking Legend.